Hi there, and welcome to Charleston Antique Mall in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're glad to have you join us for today's military collectibles class taught by our very own Sean, booth 1617. Thank you for attending. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name's Sean. I'm dealer 1617, former United States Army paratrooper. That's what got me into collecting military, and that's what I have. So, collecting military. There's a lot of stuff to collect in military. You can collect uniforms, knives, helmets, vehicles. But today we're going to focus on U.S. military, how I collect military, and where I find my stuff at. So we'll start off with this is a grouping uniform here. This all came from one person. This is his uniform from World War II, which has all his ribbons and medals. This is his helmet. His helmet here and his hats also came from World War II, all from the same person. Okay, so this is a World War II knife, Camelus World War II M3 trench knife. A lot of the U.S. paratroopers and other militaries carried it also. Then we also have also trench knives that were made during World War II. So this is a unique one. So it's got a knuckle knife with a trench knife that was made during World War II.
Is that for like hand-to-hand combat?
Yes, it is.
How can you tell the difference between World War II knives and World War I knives?
So a lot of the knives were dated during the time periods. So 1918, you'll see like the World War I knives will be dated 1918, 1917. And then World War II, the knives will be dated 1942, 1943.
Where's the
So
date on the blade?
they'll date it on the blade sometimes, or on the guard.
Okay.
And then that's how most of the things that are military were marked with some kind of markings. So all the military stuff is going to have some kind of U.S. marking on there of some sort.
Does it say like U.S. Army on there?
Yeah. So like this one here, it'll say like U.S. M3 trench knife on the blade there, and they put like the flame bomb stamps on the bottom, which is like a proof mark to show that it was military.
And is it true, you've mentioned before that if there's notches or something, that's actually how many?
Well, this one here is a trench knife that was made during World War II. But if you flip it over, he has 4 notches on the backside on the handle here, which signifies kills during the war.
So that wasn't made by the military, that was
No,
made by a soldier?
Yeah, so that's considered like a trench knife that was a theater knife is what it is. So they made these, they call them theater knives. They're made during the war, during the theater. And then I've got books on them that show like the different kind of theater knives that they made during the war. And then this is also another sample of a edge weapon that came out of the Philippines during World War II. So I got this one at a garage sale for $25. It was marked World War II, and I asked the guy, how do you know this is World War II? And he said, I was in the Philippines during World War II with my brother, and he got this one off a dead soldier. So it was a nice piece that he brought back as a...
Is there any way for someone who wasn't available at that transaction to be able to verify its age or authenticity, and that it wasn't just something that was manufactured?
Right.
Made to look old?
There's a way to do it. They pop the handle off, and they pull out the handguard, and there's markings on the actual handle that show like the maker of the actual knives during that time period for the samurai swords. Then collecting other stuff. So this is more trench art that they made during World War II. So this is like a shell that a 105 shell that they converted into a vase. So some people had a lot of time during the war to make these fancy things.
They carve them too, right?
Right.
What things can be made out of? I know you pick up trench art a lot, but so what things can be?
A lot of trench arts they make. So this is considered trench art. They make a lot of ashtrays and vases with the trench arts and other things. I have a few different trench arts in the booth that you can see. And then, so this also came from a garage sale, this grouping here. So this was sitting on the table. He's a colonel during World War II field artillery. And this was sitting there, and I asked him, or the guy that was selling it, do you have any other World War or any other military stuff? And he's all, oh yeah, I have my father-in-law's uniform in a box and a hat. So when you go to garage sales and estate sales, you find military stuff, always ask if they have other military stuff. And this guy went above and beyond, and he wrote the whole story about his timeline when he was in the service. And he put his card in there, and it's pretty neat buying at a garage sale.
Is there any way, again, to identify the age of it, or is it just by the design and
It's
matching it? Or?
it's the design, and then he has his business card in there, so you can actually Google him. If you actually Google him, it shows back to when he was in the World War II. And
How
then
do you tell what branch of military each uniform is from?
they're different. The uniforms are all different colors, so you have to do more of the research, which I go to like a government issue book, and then that breaks down everything for you, kind of shows you what the different uniforms they had and different material, different tools that they had during the war.
So that one was what?
Which one? This one here?
Air Force? Or?
This is an Army. He's a field artillery Army, World War II colonel.
Colonel.
Yeah.
So do you have a way of identifying all the badges, or able to?
Yeah. So
check
you can look at, when you go to his ribbons, he has 3 stars on one of his ribbons, which was when he was that he served in 3 different operations. So each operation he gets a star. So he did 3 operations during that time period there.
So if you see those like at antique stores or garage sales, is there value to them? Is that
There is value to it, but when you find a grouping, if you can get groupings like that where multiple pieces, you got his trousers, his jacket, his hats, and his helmet, so that's considered a grouping, and a lot of collectors like to collect groupings. So if you don't ask, like I would have never found a uniform if I didn't ask if he had other stuff. So I asked if he had other military stuff, and he had just sitting in a box, And then this also it's not an issue knife, but it was also carried a lot by soldiers. So this one is a rare one. It's more of a, you buy it at the hunting store and sporting goods store. So this is a Vietnam era knife. It's hard to identify, but you can identify it by the scabbard. So that's how they know that they're different military knives.
Would that be by a major American maker?
This is an American maker. This is a rare one. So this is a Randall.
Okay.
So Randall is the manufacturer. And they made knives all the way into World War II. So if you ever find a Randall out there at a garage sale, grab it.
Yeah, but this one you identified
As Vietnam.
Yeah, you know what it looks like.
Right.
But is it marked like with the name Randall on it?
Yeah, so this one has the Randall marking on the side here.
Okay.
So if you find that's and then when they made the Randall, they stamped them different during the early time periods. So that's how they identify the age of the knife.
So what would you say would be your ultimate find if you like the mecca of you hit the jackpot as far as military?
The samurai sword is one of the greatest finds, I think, at a garage sale for $25. I mean, with the story behind it from the vet that was there, that him and his brother brought it back from the Philippines.
Now, when you find more like the samurais and stuff, are those going to be like mementos collected
So
by
those
American soldiers? For
yes,
soldiers they killed?
they're considered like war trophies. They call them war trophies. So they bring back souvenirs that they collect when they're overseas at war and stuff.
Would the Japanese military have issued that samurai style knife?
Yeah, so that was basic. Instead of carrying like the little fighting daggers, most of them carry like a samurai sword as their sidearm as a edged weapon.
Going back to trench art, if I were to see that, I'd think, oh, that's just a brass face. How can I identify that that's actual trench art?
So when you turn the vases over, you can see like it's almost like a shell at the bottom. But then when you turn it over, there's going to be markings underneath with stamping 105 U.S. It'll say U.S. around it'll say it around the perimeter there.
Will it have that like middle dot in the middle from the?
That's where the primer,
where it hits, where
right,
it ignites
the pin strikes the,
Okay.
correct.
So
The
they
pin,
should all have that at the bottom.
correct.
Okay.
So how do they have an opportunity if they're in the trench and they're supposed to be on guard with the rifles out waiting to be attacked? Where exactly do they get the soldering tools?
I'm not sure how that's the ingenuity that they have back then, yeah. I mean, for them to be able to bend it in like that, it's quite a task, yeah.
So they were made during wartime, not after.
They could be made after, but they used wartime pieces, so it's kind of hard to differentiate between wartime and when it was actually made. But being that it was stamped during the war, that's what they consider trench art from that time period.
How's value assigned? Is it the older? I mean, if you're going back to, let's say, the Spanish-American War at the end of the 19th century, or moving on to World War I, all the way up to the Gulf, is valuation determined just by how old it is, or is there some other factors that actually?
There's a lot of. The question is the value of the knives from World War I onto current. So there's a lot of different variations in determining the value. The value is determined by the rarity of the knife. So like this knife here, there's, I believe, 9 manufacturers that made it during World War II, and some of the manufacturers didn't produce as many. So when you find it, a rare one, the price is going to be a lot higher than a more common one.
Are they stamped with the manufacturer also?
They are stamped with
So
the
you can
manufacturer,
tell which one's
right?
more rare.
Yeah. And then the ones with the dates are obviously going to be are earlier during the war, so those are going to demand more money also.
And then with the trench art, is it just how artistic it is? For instance, I saw that you had your hands on one that was a clock, and it had like different types of shells on it.
Right.
And it was a very nice piece. But how does one go about determining the valuation of that? Is that just in the eye of the beholder, or is there something that makes it more unique? Or because that's going to all be individual pieces.
Yeah, so it's all individual pieces. So that trench art in particular that you're talking about it was a Navy clock that was on that trench art, which made the value a lot higher than the other trench art. So that one had, it was a little more intricate. They did a little more time on that one.
Versus an ashtray.
Right, and where the ashtray, they just cut the bottom and they weld a couple pieces on there and they call it good.
And does trench art just refer to whether or not it was manufactured in the trench, or you could be on a ship?
It could be on a ship, yeah.
Manufacturing there, and that's got it from the Navy.
Correct, yeah. The trench art, that doesn't actually mean it was actually made in a trench. They could have I'm pretty sure they were made on the ship, especially with, right. They just had time on their hands to manufacture stuff.
The trench art knife with the brass knuckles, would that just be like sort of an accepted form that different servicemen would make that style of knife? I would make a knife with the brass knuckles, or is that just like a totally unique to one serviceman?
The brass knuckle is not just for one serviceman. They made them during the war because they used them as also brass knuckles because there was a lot of hand-to-hand combat during the World War II. So they had to go from trench to trench, and then they made them this way so you can punch somebody and actually use it as a dagger to get through the trench coats of the.
So was
certain.
that a, like standard issue?
This was actually a bayonet that was converted into a fighting knife. So that's actually the bayonet scabbard, and then they took the blade off the bayonet and they added a handle to it.
When you say they, is that the actual who owned the knife, or is that post-war?
I believe it was trench during the war. Somebody made
So
it.
you're saying a lot of soldiers made
Right.
those in particular, because I feel like, are those more common?
The knuckle knives are kind of rare. They're hard to find, but there's all different kinds of knuckle knives that they made during the war. So everybody wanted a knuckle knife, just to have as a better defense weapon.
Did the military ever have an official issue of a knuckle knife?
They had a few, but very rare. So if you can find them, they demand a lot of money.
And is there a particular brand name or manufacturer to that? Or?
There are. So if you go to like the United States, there's another book, United States Knives of the United States Military, World War II, and they will show you like more knives that were actually used by U.S. Army during World War II. So this whole book is just on different World War II knives that was used during World War II by the U.S. military and all the different manufacturers.
If I go out picking and I'm at a garage sale and I see a knife and somebody, what would, and I have no idea what pricing or anything, like what would be a good, if I saw the one with the brass knuckles and somebody gave me a crazy amount, how would I know, I guess, to put a dollar sign on that, or if it's worth it to me,
So
being the person?
for you to try to price a knife, it's hard because everything varies on condition and of the knife. So for example, with this knife, the value goes down a little bit because of this is a leather handle on the knife. A lot of the times the leather handle deteriorated during the Pacific because leather and water doesn't go good together. So they also modified these too. But to determine the price, it all depends on like the manufacturer of the knife. You'd have to know the manufacturer and then the rarity of the knife.
Is there any way for an amateur, or even somebody with just a small amount of experience, to distinguish between fraud manufactured in, say, China, or for a theater or something like that, versus a real item? For instance, how does somebody distinguish between a samurai sword, looks like it's steel and everything like that,
Right.
looks functional? Is there a way to do it versus something that's authentic?
Or was it at a gift shop?
So
Gift shop.
So another example. So the M3 trench knife was used during World War II. So they currently make this knife today. So you can go out right now and you can still buy an M3 trench knife. If you don't know, you're gonna probably end up buying a new trench knife.
How do you know?
So you'll be able to. That's the thing. So when you see the blade, when they're marked on the blade like that, and with the date, you're gonna know that it's authentic. The newer ones, and there's so many things to them. So like on the old ones, they got a double pin, and the newer ones are gonna have a single pin. So it's hard to tell. So collecting military it's really a hard thing to do unless you're doing research. It's constant research of knowing what you have and knowing what to look for.
So just call
Right.
Ask you if it's worth it. Okay. But like with the samurai, I see a lot of those that people just put on their walls, right? Like,
Right.
And again, it was at either at a gift shop maybe.
I mean, with the samurai
How would
sword,
know?
I don't know, but then just being that I got it from the vet himself, and then he's saying that him and his brother were served in the Marines, and his brother got it off a deceased Japanese soldier and brought it back. That's pretty much good enough verification for me as a collector, and I'd take it. And then, so there's a lot of other military stuff to collect also. So I have a lot of friends that collect tanks, and vehicles, and they have those at their houses. And a lot of people collect military weapons.
Where do you find those?
So a lot of my stuff, a lot of the firing weapons, you'd have to go to like a gun show to find those, or online. You can find those online at like gunbroker.com. But as far as locally, I source a lot of my stuff at the Broadacres Flea Market and garage sales and estate sales. So I don't know, when you go, do you guys use the computer at all to look for like garage sales and stuff? And then do you guys, so when I go onto the computer, I extend my search engine, and instead of just looking for garage sales, I go to the garage sales section and I type in military. So you can narrow down to the garage sales with military stuff instead of hitting all the garage sales. Then you type in other stuff, you type in helmet, and it'll pull up helmets, that people are having at garage sales, or knives also. And that's how I find a lot of my stuff through the garage sale. Then I also go on OfferUp, which is another website online, which they sell stuff. And the same thing there, you can go on OfferUp, but then you can search and search, but then when you get into the search engine, you type in military or helmet or knives, it narrows it down and it brings your stuff, that brings you to what you're looking for.
If you're just starting out as a collector, what would you recommend that you start with like knives, or start with bayonets, or should you be starting with like the extra equipment, whether it's a flak jacket or
So that's the thing. There's so many different things to collect in the military. So I mean, a lot of people just like to collect the pins. So they just collect, just ribbons and pins. Other people collect knives. Other people collect helmets. I mean, we got a guy here that he's the author of a helmet. He writes a book on just helmets. So, and that's a big thing. So that's his main thing is helmets
Whatever talks to you, I guess, or your
and
passion.
whatever catches your eye.
So there's I see a lot of ammo cans. As a reseller, what would be a good price? And the prices kind of range all over the place. What would be a good price
So
if to pick it up?
going into ammo cans. So even the ammo cans are dated back to World War II, World War I. So those are all going to vary in price also. So they have a lot of the regular cans now that are like 50 caliber cans and 30 caliber cans, which are common. And you can find those. That's what you're going to normally find at a garage sale is the 50 caliber, 30 caliber ammo cans. And those go anywhere between $5 to $15 at a garage sale, And those are also have dates on them. Most of them, not all of them.
so if it comes from the U.S. military, chances are it's going to be dated. It's going to have some kind of marking on it. If it's missing those markings, doesn't have any dates, chances are it's just
The value is going to go down on the.
okay. Does it mean it's not authentic automatically?
It doesn't mean it's not authentic. It's just that means that it's worn. It could be just worn too. So the date could, like on the ammo cans, I think a lot of them, they sprayed the dates on the ammo cans, and then earlier ones, they stamped the dates on there. So it's stamped into the metal.
Sean, you didn't talk much about actual medals, but I'm curious about the Purple Heart. I've seen them online, and isn't that illegal to sell?
I believe it is illegal. It should only be with the family. So if you see somebody selling one, I mean, they're selling it. I mean, it's going to be very hard to find one. I've never come across one myself.
They're Bronze Star.
I've never seen a Bronze Star. This guy got a Bronze Star right here. He received the Bronze Star for his service in World War II.
Son-in-law didn't like them very much. Apparently.
You guys have any questions?
What about like metals collectability?
Metals collectability. So there's a lot of factors to metal collecting also. So like the early ones are going to be stamped sterling on the metals, and then the newer ones aren't stamped sterling. So, but it's hard to tell.
What do you mean by early? How
So during World War II, they stamped them with sterling on the back of the metals. I didn't bring any pins in today in metals, but on the back side, everything's going to have markings. Like I said, so it's stamped on the back of the pins. It'll say sterling or another Gemco, other brands that collectors know. So if you're starting to collect a certain thing, you almost need to get a book to try to figure out what you're collecting, and then you'll be able to figure out a lot more.
Were you interested in collecting during your military service?
So during the service, I wasn't collecting as much, and then when I got out, I started collecting more because I started coming across all the pieces that I was using during the service, or some of the pieces, and I was just fascinated with the 82nd Airborne Paratroopers. So that's a lot of the things I collect is paratrooper related.
Okay, so I assume your service was a very positive experience for you, so you keep it going.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it drives my passion to be in the antique, and so that's my main thing is I go out and I search for military stuff.
What other kind of military items do you have in your booth?
So in the booth I have I've got mess kits, I've got blankets, there's a ton of shovels, I've got helmets, I've got almost there's a lot of things I've got in there. So I mean, almost if you can think of it, I probably have it, but I might not have it here, but if I don't have it, I can probably get it.
Among the shoppers that shop with you, what do you think your most popular item is? What type of item is the most popular? Can you categorize it that way?
So a lot of the stuff a lot of the collecting that I've seen that people buy are military mess kits and also the utensils. So those are also stamped. So the military mess kit's going to have a date on there, and then you got the knives and the spoon and the fork, which the early ones some of them have dates on them. The knives will have dates on them, but a lot of the other utensils won't.
So I guess everybody in the military had to eat something, so
Right.
they have a connection. A lot of people just have a connection to that.
That's it. I mean, they use
necessarily in combat.
no. So and that's the thing. That's my passion. So I've come to love collecting military.
We tend to sell MREs too, the meals ready to eat, which is so weird to me because people, like cans of, I
Or
don't know, old cans of ham
Well-
or whatever. Yeah.
well, those are vintage. Those are sea rations that they had during World War II or Vietnam era. So they came in cans. So a lot of the rations came in cans. So I have some of those in my booth. They have candy and sugar and other things in there, and you can get canned meat from 1978 if you want it. You know.
Are there any kind of military items that are just so common that they might be sold at a garage sale, but they're so common they really just don't have any value?
So the things that are common are gonna be the uniforms. You're gonna see tons and tons of uniforms. That's gonna be everywhere. And then so if you're looking for the old uniforms, they're gonna have tags like these here, which it's almost like a World War II tag. So you'll see like everything's dated. So even the blankets, they even dated 1942. You know, so the old uniforms, they all have markings in them somewhere. So somewhere in there is going to have like where they manufactured it, and the date is also on top of the tags.
If it's something from like the Gulf or from Vietnam, those are going to be fairly common.
They're fairly common, yeah. So you'll see a lot of those. So I mean, a lot of the soldiers are able to keep them now. Where the older ones, I mean, yeah, they turned them in. The families just got rid of them.
What about dog tags? Do you want to collect those, or are those?
So dog tags are collectible too. A lot of people collect dog tags, and then so the World War II dog tags will have like a little notch in them when you find them, whereas the current ones it's like a fully round dog tag. So, but those really don't have any dates on them. You just have to kind of know. So
Well, it's got the person's social. I guess you could totally do some research on that. Huh?
you could, but you can't get much info off his social.
New identity.
Right.
Mhm.
Are there any particular books that you recommend for a new collector? I know you have 5 different ones up here right now, but if
So-
you had to pick one out of those 5, just for general military collecting.
So this would be one of the better books here to collect, because this kind of gives you a guide. This is more like a collector's guide of all the different kind of things that were used in the military. So this will go from like his boots to medals, to uniforms, to goggles and edge weapons, even into machine guns.
And you can pick this up either on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or.
Yeah, I'm sure Amazon has it, and Barnes & Noble probably doesn't have this one. You know, so Amazon, you probably have a better chance on Amazon in finding the books.
I just saw that you flip through. You sell a lot of shovels.
Shovels sell a lot too, because everybody still uses shovels to this date to go camping or dig holes, and it's just something good to throw in the back of the truck.
And they should be dated.
And the shovels are dated too. Even up to Vietnam era, even up to the current time, the shovels are dated. So everything is pretty much dated.
That helps.
And then, so this one also came out of a garage sale too, this trench knife. So you got to get out there and search. Like I said, when you get on Craigslist, you search out military stuff, you search bayonet, you search knives, you search helmet, and it'll pop up all your stuff, and you can narrow down your garage sale searching, so you don't got to hit every garage sale out there.
Are there any trends in military collections? Is it cyclical? Have you noticed years of doing this that certain items or type of military gear is just fetching more value, and then that passes out and goes into something else over time? And is it right now, are people more interested in collecting World War II, or are they more interested in collecting Vietnam era? I mean, are there trends as far as valuations are concerned?
There's not so many trends. I think it's more, the trend is what the era that the person was into, you know, and what they're fascinated with. So there's no value of World War II going up or World War I going up. It's just the value of the value is what it is to the collector. The stuff that is getting harder to find is the German stuff. So if you can find German stuff, military, that fetches a high number in monies.
About Russian or Japanese?
Russian stuff is there's not too many of that stuff, Russian or Japanese stuff here on stateside. So it's very hard to get a hold of. So if you get a hold of it, it'll probably bring a lot of money. So even the Japanese stuff, if you have it here, a lot of the Japanese collectors here buy it from you and they send it back to Japan and bring it back to the families. So if you ever find, like, if you come across swords at a estate sale, garage sale that they claim is Japanese, you should probably look into it because those things bring a lot of money.
And British, like RAF.
British stuff brings money too, but British it's almost common like the U.S. stuff. So, but British will have the rarity things in there. So just like the U.S., there's certain gear that's going to be a lot rarer than other militaries.
Any valuations of field phones? I've noticed we have a couple in the store, not necessarily in your booth, but a couple other booths here in the store.
So the field phones are good. They're more for a display. So that's all you can use them. I mean, they're still functional because I believe they're just wires. So it's just phone to phone is what it is back then. So it's not like you're calling out on AT&T. It's just the field phone is just going from this location to your other location, ran by wire. And so they're just basically talking from one position to another position.
They were run by wire, so they weren't like walkie-talkies.
No. So I mean, until they got into the radios, yeah.
Okay.
So the field phones are actually ran by wire. A lot of them are ran by wire.
Do you know when they switched to radio?
So even when I was in the 90s, I was still running wire. So I was a commo communications specialist, and I was still running wire with field phones. So even into the 90s, we were still using landlines, and also using radios also.
How much wire? I mean, how far could you possibly go?
I mean, they come in spools. So I mean, you just got to get down and crawl across the ground and run your wire. So, I mean, it can go forever. I mean, they've got big spools that just go, I wouldn't say miles, but it can go a good distance.
Is there any branch that's more collectible than the other? Versus military, army, marines?
Not necessarily that it's more collectible. It's just more collectible to the person. So I mean, if a marine more marine stuff would be more collectible to a marine. Army stuff is more collectible to me because I'm an army guy.
You're a paratrooper. How many jumps do you have on your belt?
I have 39 jumps.
The active service? I mean, as far as
Oh.
military engagements?
No, I went in between 2 wars, so I got lucky. I did 2 enlistments.
Good.
Thank you
very much.
You guys have any other questions?